Hello guys, welcome to CodeTech. In today's video, we are going to talk about Eureka server. So we are going to see what a Eureka server is, and also I'm going to show you a demo of how to implement the Eureka server and how it perfectly fits into our microservice architecture. So before we move into what a Eureka server is, let's see why we need the Eureka server, or what was the problem without Eureka server. Why did Eureka come into picture? So say suppose we have two microservices. These are my two microservices. We have a book service and we have a user service. Okay, so consider this to be a bookstore application wherein a user can have some books under his name. Okay, and if there is a use case wherein the user has to get some book information that he possesses. Say a user has 3 books under him. So when I hit an endpoint of get user by ID, it has to give me the user details as well as the number of books he has, along with the details of the books. Okay, so for that, the user service has to communicate with the book service, right? So how does this communication between microservices happen? So we can have it with a simple REST call. So say suppose both the services are deployed on localhost, and say if the book service is running on port 8080, my user service will just make a REST call with this URL, that is localhost 8080/book, and give the book ID. The user service can get the details of the books. Very simple. Very simple, provided the host and the port are fixed, or it's already known to the user service. But what if it's dynamic? Right? What if it's dynamic? Now, if you see nowadays on a cloud platform, it is very obvious that all the servers or the containers, they use a dynamic IP for auto scaling. And the main idea why we moved to microservice architecture is because of its strong feature of auto scaling. So we identify the demanding services and we auto scale them. Correct? So this having a hard coded IP is never a solution. So that's where the Eureka server came into picture. Okay, so the problem what we had without the Eureka server is that the hard-coded IP cannot be used when deployed on a cloud platform. And when using microservices, deploying on the cloud is the most desirable approach. So now that we know the problem, we know the Eureka server solves this problem, let's move into what a Eureka server is. So Eureka server, it's an application which provides the implementation of service discovery, where all other microservices can register with it and others can discover them. So Eureka server itself is a microservice. All the other microservices running in the application, they register to this Eureka server, and whenever there is a need, when one service needs an information from another service, it would just look up to the Eureka server and say, hey Eureka, give me this. And Eureka, it is like a registry wherein it stores the information of all the applications running. It knows on which port and which IP it's running on. Right? So the calling service need not know or need not remember the IP address. Okay, so Eureka handles this. So that is what is there on the first 2 points. So again, Eureka is a Netflix open source product, and Spring Cloud provides a wrapper around it so that we can use it in our Spring Boot application. Yes, so how we are going to use it in our application, we are just going to see it in a while. Okay, so let's get into the demo. So I've opened my Spring Initializer. So let's give the name as Kotek, artifact name. So as I already told, we are going to have a bookstore application set up. And keeping it very simple, we're just going to have two microservices. One is for book service, another one is a user service. So let's create the user service. This is for the user. Description, let me give user service, and the package name is fine, jar or dependencies. Um, Dependencies, yes, we're going to have web for sure. And let me also take a Mongo dependency. We are going to connect to the MongoDB. So Spring Data MongoDB. What else do we need? We might not need anything else. We for adding the Eureka, we'll have another dependency which we will come back to. So for now, let's generate this. Okay, so similarly, let's also create a book service. And with the same dependency. Okay, so the next what I'm going to do is just unzip and have this imported in my Spring initializer. Okay, so I'll just do that quickly. This will take quite some time. Let's wait. Okay, so I have my both book and user imported. So let's just go to our application.properties. Give a server port. Say this is running on 8080. Okay. And our user is running on 8081. Okay, so now let's go back to our Spring initializer and create a Eureka server. Okay. So here I will not need any Mongo dependency. I will not need a web dependency. What I will need is Eureka server dependency. I'll generate it and I will import it in the STS. So yeah, this is importing. It's done. Now let me go to the pom.xml of Eureka server. You can see the dependency Spring Cloud Starter Netflix Eureka server dependency which is added. Okay. Now in order to make this work as a Eureka server, there is a small configuration that we'll have to do. So one is in your application class, you need to add a annotation that is enable Eureka server. Okay, so this tells Spring Boot that this service is going to act as the Eureka server. And also what we have to do is in our pom.xml, in our application.properties, of course we need to give a port, but even if you don't give a port, a Eureka server by default starts up on 8761 port. And you need to add a configuration here. You need to add this 2 lines as well. So what this says is these 2 configurations are specific to Eureka client. Now this is not our Eureka client, right? This is our server. So we are telling that it need not be registered with this Eureka server. And also fetch registry is also not required. So I already told you that a Eureka acts as a registry where it contains the applications running along with its IP addresses, host and the port address. Okay, so you're telling that this by default a Eureka server will already be registered to itself. You don't have to specifically mention it. Okay, so these two are for Eureka client. Now our Eureka client is going to be what? Is going to be our other two services. That is our book service and our user service is going to be a Eureka client. But again, for that we need to add a dependency. Okay, so in our book pom.xml file, let me add this dependency. An error here because the Spring Cloud, we have not mentioned the version for Spring Cloud. Okay, you can check it out in our Eureka server dependency, how it's been added, and take that. So I'm just copying this dependency management. So this wouldn't have been a problem if we had added the dependency from the Spring initializer itself. Since we are manually adding, we have to add the version. That's what we are doing now. Okay, so that error is gone. So we need to add the same to our user pom.xml as well. I'll do that quickly. Okay, so I've added it in user pom.xml. So in order to make the book and the user service as a Eureka client, what we have to do is again, um, we need to add the annotation here, that is enable discovery client. Okay, we do this, and also in the pom.xml, as I told you, sorry, not pom.xml, in the application.properties file, we need to mention where our Eureka server is running, and we need to also say that this is a client and we have to register with Eureka server and also give a fetch registry to true. Okay, so these are the three things that you would give. So one is, this is the place where our Eureka server is running, localhost 8761/Eureka, and we're telling that this client needs to be registered with the Eureka server, and also we're telling that this client needs to have a fetch registry, meaning from the registry it has to fetch the values. That also we are giving it as true. So these things we have to again put it to the user service as well. All right, so we have the Eureka server. We have two microservices, that's a book service and the user service registered to Eureka. But we are missing out something, right? Where are we telling that if a user service wants to access or get the data from book service, we have to tell that okay, there should be a name given to it. We are missing out that. So okay, we give a Spring application name that is book service. So similarly, we give the Spring application name in the user service. Give this as user service. So anytime the user service wants to get the data from the book service, it has to just call this application with this name, book service. It need not remember the IP or the port. Sorry, the host and the port. Okay, so let me bring this applications up. Now you might ask me, why did I add a Mongo dependency? So I'm planning to have to give a series of this, uh, the entire application, the bookstore that I told you. So we are going to use Mongo for it. I've just added, but this is going to start off with just the Eureka server part. So for now, we are not having, we don't need Mongo. So let's take that in the next uh, video, maybe. So I'm bringing all of my services up. And now let's go to our local host 8761. We have our Eureka up. Okay, and you can see here that we have two services, that is our book service and user service registered on book service on 8080 and user service on 8081. Okay, so it shows various other status as well. Now it's up, shows the number of instances available. Yeah, so that's it about Eureka. So if there is anything more that you would like to know, drop it in the comment section, and also put in your suggestions as to what you would like to see in the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, guys. Do subscribe.